All right. I believe we are live. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to Coffee Break Live. Am I live? Am I even on YouTube? I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm going to turn down my desktop audio here because I don't think I need it. Let me know if we're sounding good. If you would, let me know if we're sounding like we're live and up and running. Today we're talking about TRP, text-based roleplay. I want to welcome everyone to the chat. Let's see. Yo, Robert, how's it going? Dalton McGee, hey there. Hey, Dalton, how's it going? Sounds good? Heck yeah. I think we've got the audio problems behind us. Sounding good? Heck yeah. All right, we're talking about TRP today, and I've got some really good insight from the Discord here. Link is in the description if you want to join my Discord. Lots of awesome stuff going on in there. And we talk about all these topics before they even make it to the live. And I share the wisdom of the community with you. What up, Juberstan? Aaron, hi, how's it going? Robert Evans says, sounds good. Good morning. Superfly checking in. Heck yeah, Superfly Rob. Good to see you. It's a pleasure to see everybody. All right, I'm going to bring up these notes here. Let's see if I can find the right channel. There's only like 50 channels. Here we go. All right. So what we want to talk about today is text-based roleplay. Does it have any merit? Is there any reason? To use it? Is it awesome? Aaron says text-based RP is literally the only RP I do. Aaron, that is super interesting. Are you in my Discord? And if so, did you share about that? I don't think you're in my Discord. You should join, but you should also tell me about that. I would love to hear about it. Garrick says here, hey, Garrick, how's it going? Garrick was the one who created the resource I sent out in the email this morning, the Ruined Monastery, which, Garrick, my apologies. I sent out only half the resource. My mistake. Sometimes I make mistakes. Despite common belief, I'm actually not perfect. This is a rumor that goes around that I'm perfect, that I do everything perfectly. This is a very strong rumor. Unfortunately, it is false about 1 or 0.1% of the time. Anyway, Alex says, afternoon, folks. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Aaron says, one of my players is shy about VC, so I got no other options than TRP. Interesting. Okay, I would love to hear more about that, but we're going to dive into this, okay? So first, I'm going to give you my little 2 cents on this. Okay, so text roleplay. Now, let's rewind about, let's see, this would have been back in, when would this have been? Maybe 2008, 2007, 2008. I was on MySpace, and that was what I was doing for social media. It was the only social media I was on. In fact, when Facebook came out, I was very resistant. I was like, this new Facebook stuff is weird. Let's just stick to MySpace. That was like my attitude for a long time. And I think this would have been actually 2007. I'm pretty sure, because I think I joined. I don't remember when I joined Facebook, but anyway, I had friends on MySpace, and we started this roleplay game, and they called it Para Roleplay. And these were friends I met on Xbox Live, playing Call of Duty on Xbox Live, and then we became friends on MySpace. And they were like, "Dude, you should join our anime Para Roleplay game." And I was like, "What? What is that?" I was playing at the time homebrewed Star Wars TTRPG, like with dice around the coffee table in the living room. But they were like, you should play this with us. And so I jump in there, and it's literally them. They just write paragraphs and put it in the thread of what their characters are doing when their characters meet, they have interactions. There was like no GM, and it was just straight up like, basically there's a world with some like kind of like rules, and then you role play in it. And that was my first introduction to text-based roleplay. I was not super into it, and it kind of dissolved very quickly. That's fine. Move forward to today, and actually, that's not true. Move forward to Facebook. Let's say 2000, it would have been, let's see, right now it's 2025, which is wild to think about. So around 2020, 2021-ish, I was running a Facebook page, like a Facebook group for my D&D group. Now, all my D&D players were on Facebook, and so we had a D&D group, and we would do in-between session role play in the Facebook group, which was kind of fun. And it would we did things like shopping, talking to NPCs, like things that we didn't want to take up valuable gaming time with. We would role play the in between on the Facebook group, which was a little bit time intensive, but it was cool and it was fun. Now, with that being said, I actually moved on from the Facebook page thing because it kind of phased out. As I started moving forward in gaming, more and more of my friends phased out of Facebook and actually stopped even using Facebook as a social media platform. And it became just kind of like weird. Like even now, like it's kind of weird, but Facebook Messenger is like dying out. People are not using it as much. I have like 3 friends left on Facebook Messenger. Everyone else has moved to things like Discord or WhatsApp or Instagram or Snapchat. Anyway, so nowadays, the only text-based role play that I do is as a supplement to D&D, and it's things like in Discord, sometimes like for example Waz, who's playing Tarnik in William's game, shout out William Dungeons and 20s, shout out Waz, who's playing Tarnik, awesome role player, deep role player, who I have had the pleasure of meeting through Discord, and who I'm now really excited to be role playing alongside, like for some deep role play, which I really love. We converse over Discord between games with little interactions between Grom and Tarnik. Like, basically just kind of talking about maybe possible next steps for those characters and such and such. So we do this between games a little bit, and that's kind of what I use text-based role play for. And I could see. Now, you know what? I'm going to rewind. I have to repeat, or I'm sorry, I have to correct myself again. There was a time where me and my friends we experimented with writing a book together using text-based role play. And that was actually a really fun, interesting, weird thing that turned out to be pretty cool. And what we did was we all had characters. And then I was kind of taking the lead of like the GM. And so I was kind of typing and writing all the in-between stuff. But then when there were scenes with those characters, we would role play it out, and we would role play it out in text. So it wouldn't be like a role play game. I'd be like, I think my character would say this, and I type it, and I'd say, what would your character say? And what would they do? And then they would say, I think you would do this and this and this. And then I would kind of type it, listen to what they're saying, type it down, read it back to them, and we would kind of hash it out and basically work out the scene. And the idea was me and like 4 of my friends were going to write a fantasy book this way. And it worked out really well. The only barrier was getting everyone together for that. And that's why it fell apart, was because people started to get busy because we were doing it on like Saturday mornings. So that is really the entirety of my experience with text-based roleplay. And those are the things I think it could be useful for. High key, in my future life, at some point, I do plan to write a collaborative book with like 4 other awesome people who love to do fantasy. And we would write it like that. We write it kind of like a written role play. I think that has tremendous potential and would be so much fun. I just haven't found the time or the right group of people who have the right schedules yet to make it happen. Hit me up if you're ever interested in anything like that, because I might be down to clown, as they say. But with that being said, shabam, that is kind of the totality of my experiences with TRP. Now, there's some great conversation going on in the Discord, though kind of brief. So I'm going to share a couple of those things. But first, I'm going to go to the chat. I want to see what the chat is saying here. Dalton says, I'm looking forward to hearing about this. I've wanted to establish some more text-based RP during downtime between my actual sessions. Okay, yeah, no, cool. I think it's useful for that. Aaron says, one of my players is shy. Oh, we've already talked about that. Juberston says, being a professional versus being a perfectionist. Lol. I think that was in response to Aaron's comment. Eric Wells says, I also almost exclusively do text-based D&D. Interesting. That's the second person. I did not know this was so common. I have one game on Wednesdays over Zoom, but besides that, just text-based stuff allows me to fit it into my busy schedule. You're also the only other person I've heard of who's run games on Zoom. I've been running games on Zoom, though I've switched to Owlbear Rodeo, which I like better, but Zoom was it for quite a while. Let's see here. Aaron says, agreed about the schedule thing. Added benefit is you get to reread what you wrote. That's true. Robert Evans says, like button needs some love. Hit it. Yeah, heck yeah. Thank you, Robert. Eric Wells says, it also gives those who maybe didn't prep enough the time to plan something out. That's true. Robert says, I sometimes use TRP for super long travel or time skips. It tends to get my players fairly hyped and involved. I would agree. Herminator says, I'll do the book. Heck yeah, Herminator. There's one. Me and I've got one other person. We need like 4 more, 3 more, and we'll do it. All right, so let me read some of the stuff that came through in the chat here. Aaron says, unless you record everything, you can't go back to a voice game. That's true, although recording things is getting easier and easier. It is a little bit of work, but it could be done. Now, with that being said, all right, John Haney says, from the GM side, it seems like a lot of work as well. As somebody who has basically unrestricted access and time to the internet, could be fun, but it seems labor intensive. From the player side, I've never participated in a TBR game, but I'd like to try. I don't have a lot of 3-hour time slots to dedicate to playing every week, but I could easily participate in a TBR game if it were the right fit. So that makes sense to me. I do think that's kind of like, there's a question that bears asking that's like, why would you do TRP unless the reason for it was because of scheduling and you were doing it over time? It's like I post in the morning, I go do some things, come back a couple hours later, see what other people have posted, post my thing, come back a couple hours later, post my next thing after a couple of other people posted things, right? To me, that's what text-based role play, that's kind of how it would shake down ideally. And it would work best if you couldn't sit down and actually commit to a game. Like if you worked a lot or you had sporadic hours, like it might be a good solution to that. Robert says, text-based RP is not meant to be a long, drawn-out thing. However, it may take a while to finish a session. I know, kind of contradictory. No, that makes sense to me. Alex says, text-based is nice just from a note-taking standpoint. No, for sure. Yeah, it would be super, super convenient for that because there's literally a record of all roleplay. I would think combat might get clunky in a text-based thing. I've never really done any kind of combat things in that, so I'd be interested to hear what people think about that. Just a note to everyone, if you have not joined my Discord, link is in the description. Jump in and join us. Lots of awesome stuff going on in there. So, boom. I have a feeling most of you are probably in the Discord, but in case you aren't, how many people we got on the stream right now? Current viewers, 14, is that right? Yeah, heck yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me, everyone. This is awesome. All right, let's keep going. Dirty Socks says, I'm not sure that it would be a success. Still, it depends on the rules system. I'm not hyped for this idea. Dirty Socks is kind of like, nah, bruh. Whispering Wisp says, as in, essentially, there was a question, but anyway, I know there are play-by-chat applications out there. I was going to play through one for a campaign, but that fell through. It wasn't terrible to set up, but I don't see it available anymore. But I'm not sure there are others like it. As for essentially making a book with friends, I'm not so sure. Perhaps playing collaboratively in something more text-based, like 1,000-Year-Old Vampire or other more lit-based RPGs could be fun. That's what Whispering Wisp had to say. Superfly Rob said this, at the table I share, we text roleplay in between games when there is a long break. RP over text has its challenges. It lacks inflection and nuance at times, but it is totally doable. As long as there are guidelines, you should be fine. A few that we do are quotation marks for speaking, asterisk on actions, and parentheses for the name of the character at the beginning of the post. Example, parentheses mark, quotation marks, I would like to go back to that town we passed before we head into that cave over there, end quotation, in italics, adds another log to the fire and stokes it with a stick. That's an example, Superfly Rob said. John Haney says, I got told I need to sub for another teacher during my free period for the next several days, so I'm going to miss the coffee breaks. John, you are missed, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate the hard work you do teaching. That is actually a very important job because we need these kids to know something. We need these kids to know what's going on. D. Coopark says, the only way I see text-based RPG working is if all participants are present, almost like in a chat lobby, but are texting instead of talking. The only other way I see text would be useful is if the DM needs to give private messages to certain players. Now, that's true. Sometimes private messaging players is really, really fun. One time I played with, I believe it was Yeah, Swagger87. I haven't talked to Swagger in a long time, but I played in Swagger87's Halloween one-shot special, and he did this thing where he would be like, he had a separate Discord chat for Whispers. He'd be like, hey, join the Whisper chat real quick. So you join it, and then there was like a little private thing, and then you come back. And sometimes those things happen. You could send text messages like that. So texting roleplay could happen under the table. Sometimes at my core group, which meets around the dining room table, I'll get text messages from the players about secret things, which is very helpful actually. So that's kind of a way you can fit it in. I'm not sure that I agree when DQ Park, when you say the only way you see it working is if all participants are present. I almost feel like if all participants are present, you wouldn't want to text RP. Text RP to me makes the most sense if you, number one, can't get together in person, and more specifically, number two, if you could not get together at the same time. I just see it being like a thing where you go, you check it kind of constantly throughout the day, and you guys just role play at your pace that you can without a set time. That's the only way to me. It seems like that would be doable. And in any other case, why wouldn't you just run VTT? I guess is what I feel like. That's my opinion on it. But okay, now let's cover some of these messages. Let's see. Eric says combat does in fact get very slow, usually because of when people can post. If you get into a combat when people get busy with work or life, a combat that normally might take an hour or two in a real session might be extended to like 3 or 4 days because of when people post. I could totally see that happening, which is part of, I feel like, maybe the inherent clunkiness I feel like TRP presents just from a mechanical standpoint, and hence part of the reason I would find it maybe not a great solution, I guess. I guess my official opinion on TRP is that it's not really a great solution if you have a VTT option or an in-person around the table option. It seems like it would be a great alternative, though, if those things schedule-wise were not available to you. And in that case, it could actually be fun. Or if you're creating like a book together, which would actually be very fun too. Robert Evans says, when we do text-based RP, we made a rule that you really can't do combat or skill checks. This is best done with strictly RP, in my opinion. I would agree, Robert. That sounds more accurate to me, to be honest. That makes a lot of sense to me. Alex says combat does drag out, but if it is heavy RP game session, it is nice because you don't have multiple people talking at once. Did text-based a lot during lockdown. That makes sense to me. That does make sense. Dalton says text-based RP does require an extra level of respect amongst players. People have to understand that they can't just bulldoze through some RP that involves multiple parties without giving others time to respond. That, it totally makes sense to me as well. And that it's also true that, like, what if you have 4 people text role playing in a thread? Like, let's say it's maybe in a Discord thread, and then you log in and you see that one person has posted 20 different incidences of like role play. They've just been like typing nonstop for 2 hours, and you don't have 2 hours to like respond. It seems like it could get dominated unless there's some kind of turn-based system. But I could also see how a turn-based system would drastically slow it down if people are not on the same schedules. So it's like, it's kind of like, do you guys remember when they used to have those chess games where you could like, basically you could have it going for a long time, and then it would turn into a thing like you would check it once per day, make your move, and then leave it alone, and the other person would do it, and you would have a chess game going for like weeks. Did any of you used to do that? It's like, it reminds me of that back in the day. Okay, I've got some more comments coming in the Discord here. Henrietta Zuzana, I'm probably not saying that right. I apologize. Says, text-based RP is great for breaking off into smaller one-on-one player scenes. I would agree with that. I'm often hesitant to take the spotlight to have a conversation with another PC. Okay, that's fair. That is fair. If we only play twice a month, I don't want to take everyone's time up with a 2-person scene, especially if it's a slower, reflective scene that would build the character's relationship and not move the plot along. That makes sense to me, and that actually is, I think that's a good use of text roleplay, even if you're together, or even if you're playing virtually. Maybe especially if you're playing virtually, because then it'd be easy to send a sidebar message. Into the Wind says, if you discuss the differences between real-time and async TRP, Actually, I don't think I've ever. I think this is the first time I've even hinted at that. So no. The answer would be no. I haven't. Interesting thing. I would never have thought that that would be something I would talk about in talking about TTRPGs, but this conversation definitely overlaps into that. Jubersten says, I'm kind of interested in a TRP that's DM'd by AI. I feel that'd be interesting for whatever reason. Yeah, actually, that could be interesting. And just for the sake of funsies, um I've experimented with solo RP with AI. It was not intuitive or good. That was like a year ago. It might be better now. I've heard people say that it's possible, but also I've heard a lot of criticisms like it's hard, like the AI kind of has a hard time understanding the concept and sticking with it. And in my experience, that's exactly what happened. The AI had a hard time sticking with the the thing. Like it would start to describe things like not like a GM would describe them. It would start to describe things more like it was just describing things and not running a game. That was my experience with that, and that's very interesting. But I haven't tried it in like a year. I'm also not really into the idea of a solo role play. Like solo role play to me, I kind of think, why would I do that? I would just play video games. Like if I wanted to play solo role play, I'd play like Skyrim or Grand Theft Auto. I kind of feel like that's what video games are good for. But the reason I want to play like TTRPGs is because there are other people there. I want to like interact with other people. That's kind of how I feel about that. Anyway, shabam. All right, we've covered all the comments. Oh, no, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Into the Wind said, my group uses real-time text a fair bit during the regular game. We use a VTT, so there will often be side chat or via text while the game is running. I think that's very useful, and I enjoy that, and I think it's fun because it then you can have conversations without taking up the bandwidth of the game and interrupting the GM just with like player chatter that doesn't necessarily have to go through the GM. Sometimes things have to go through the GM, like if you're making a skill check, obviously it has to go through the GM. But if you're just talking, like, hey, what should we do about this situation? What do you think? Like that could be done inside chat and is actually good to do inside chat. So Into the Wind, I agree with you. I think that's a really good use for it. But with that being said, shabam, we have come up on 20 minutes here. I'm going to read the final messages here, and then I'm going to call it done for the day. Robert says, in my opinion, AI takes the heart and creativity out of this genre. It's good for when you are stuck, but using it for a whole game is not the way to go. Robert, I would tend to agree with you. Jubersten says, that's very true. I'm currently watching some called The AI Guy, but it's a bit different compared to solo SP, RP. Yeah. Jason, what did you miss? You missed our conversation basically about TRP. And I don't think there were any tech glitches today. So, heck yeah. I think we're moving into the area where I know enough about OBS to not have it break down and for me to not just spend a whole session trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday's live stream. But yesterday's live stream was literally the whole session, like the whole live stream, just me trying to figure out OBS, and the chat was helping me. So anyway, Jason, what you've missed is some pretty cool conversation about TRP, which you can certainly rewatch if you want. But I think the consensus is kind of something like this. It has its uses and its moments, but there are also some sort of like drawbacks to it, especially in the sense of like combat taking a long time. That's kind of been a consensus we've arrived at, I would say. Dr. Fibes says, damn, I'm late. We'll watch later. Much love. Much love to you, Dr. Fibes. I'm super excited to jump into the Barren Lands with you. Super pumped. Really looking forward to that campaign. It's going to kick off February 11th. It's going to be live streaming Tuesday nights, 7 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on the GM Philosophy channel. So I'm super pumped about it. Playing on Owlbear Rodeo, streaming to Twitch and YouTube, I believe, or maybe just YouTube. I was a little apprehensive to stream just to YouTube because I kind of thought like, well, what if there's like shenanigans? What if someone like, I don't know, I don't think that this would happen, but like, what if someone screams out profanity and then my channel gets whacked for it or something, right? But I kind of feel like that's an irrational fear. I think I'm being a little paranoid. I think I should go ahead and stream directly to YouTube because everyone in the game is super cool. I sometimes have what I would call semi-irrational paranoid fears about things. And when it comes to my YouTube channel, it's like any like danger of getting hit by like something that violates the policy kind of like really threatens that my paranoid my paranoid nature. Anyway, shabam. Jason says pros and cons to everything. Absolutely. Alex says, I wanted to join yesterday, but joys of third shift life. Was passed out. Yes. No, you need your sleep. No sleep, no life. You need to sleep to stay alive. It's actually kind of important. It's like eating and drinking water. Kind of have to do those things. Let's see here. Jason says, I'm playing in a TRP now. Jason, what are your upsides and downsides? What do you like and don't like about it? Ryan says, definitely got to do longer streams. Oh, you think I should do longer streams? Do you think the coffee break lives should be longer than like 20, 30 minutes? I'd be interested in hearing about that. Hot dice. Peace. Jason says, I turned the alerts on, so I shouldn't miss as many of these. Oh, okay, cool. Jubersten says, when was the start date for the stream? Well, if you mean my gaming, when I'm going to start streaming my gameplay for the Barren Lands, it's going to start February 11th at 7 p.m. CST. If you mean this, I stream for Coffee Break Live every day at 1 p.m., Monday through Friday. Eric says, I've been wanting to stream my games, but I have a habit of doing accents that might not be loved by others. Maybe everyone would love them. You might not get as much negative attention as you think. You might get more positive engagement from it than you think. A clever forgery says, I also like using text RP for the players to plan between sessions. It gives the DM a good idea of what to plan for. That's true. Robert Evans says, shabam. Shabam indeed. Heck yeah. Jason says, I like the flexibility of TRP. I don't like how long it takes sometimes. It's definitely a patient man's game. I could see that. I feel like it would take, it would be one of those things where you don't just sit down and like do it for 2 hours. It sounds like something that you kind of check and then you go do something else. You come back and check it and you go do something else. To me, that's what would make the most sense. I feel like I've said that already, but you weren't here, Jason, when I said that before. All right. That's going to wrap it up. All right. I'm going to call it there. I'm going to go get back to work. February 11th, the Barren Lands will be live streaming here on the channel at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Do not miss it. You'll be able to watch it after, of course, but the live streams will be super fun and it'll be super exciting. Hopefully I get my overlays and stuff figured out. I want to make it fancy. I'm trying to learn how to do that. Watching many hours of YouTube, trying to figure out how to do that. And then, of course, I have to like try it out and make it happen. But all right. Thank you for hanging out with me, everyone. You are all awesome. Make sure to join the Discord if you haven't done it. Link is in the description. I really appreciate every single one of you. Roll some D100s for me at your next game, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great one. Adios. Adios to you.